Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Eric Bird, here at StopStrugglingNow.com. And today, the Federal Reserve has done the unthinkable. 0.5 basis points. That's right, a 0.5 interest rate deduction off of the federal funds rate. Now you know it will be all-time record highs, just like it already is, for the stock market. We got a lot to talk about. Plus, I'm going to show you how the press conference started off. Because once again, this is news that you need to pay attention to. 70% of the population lives paycheck to paycheck. That's all you need to know. And welcome to the SSN Nation YouTube podcast channel page. Stop Struggling Now gear. Check. And please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. Now, let's get to it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and once again, thank you so much for being here. As I said, please share the videos. Please let other people know that you need to pay attention, because in the next 3 years, you heard it here first, upper middle class and below is going to be wiped out. You better be buying assets that can pay you passive income, dividend income, businesses that you have to buy, because you are not going to be saved out here. You do have to be the CEO of my life, your life. Don't miss this one, because this is the last bull run that ordinary citizens are going to be able to participate in, because after they reduce the interest rates another 1.5 to 2 points, corporations, business owners, they will be taking advantage of buying up assets. What are those assets? Places where you live, homes, apartment buildings, grocery stores, everything you need. They are going to make sure they buy it up. Therefore, there will only be 3 or 4 companies for every major business that your life depends on. Next up, healthcare. You're going to need healthcare for all, because otherwise insurances may not cover you if things go a different way. So just letting you guys know, coming out of the taxpayers' pockets is not gonna happen. 70%, as I mentioned, already live paycheck to paycheck. Imagine when it gets to 80 to 85% of the population living paycheck to paycheck. Then who's gonna be paying the taxes, the property taxes? Then who's gonna have insurance? You guys tell me. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go see what the Federal Reserve Chairman says. But first, we have to go to the Stop Struggling Now YouTube podcast page. Of course, down below, I always point out our members. Over here on the right-hand side, a few are shown courtesy of YouTube. It would be awesome if you can sign up as a member of the channel. That helps support me and helps me bring information to you. And there's a join button over here on the right-hand side. What do you receive? Some of it is under the community tab. It's always under the community tab. Look for the link so you can join me on any live stream. Only members of the channel, they're the only ones. How about Wednesday night, where only members of the channel can be in the live stream chat room? You can subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. But only members are going to be in the chat room on Wednesday nights. Also, members receive 1 or 2 messages per month specifically for them. So let's get into the Federal Reserve Chairman without further ado. Let's see what he has to say, shall we? Check this out. This is how it started.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Our economy is strong overall and has made significant progress toward our goals over the past 2 years. The labor market has cooled from its formerly overheated state. Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to an estimated 2.2% as of August. We're committed to maintaining our economy's strength by supporting maximum employment and returning inflation to our 2% goal. Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to reduce the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by a half percentage point. This decision reflects our growing confidence that with an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, strength in the labor market can be maintained in a context of moderate growth and inflation moving sustainably down to 2%. We also decided to continue to reduce our securities holdings. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that our policy interest rate by a half. Consumer spending has our policy interest rate by a half percentage point.
All right, ladies.
This decision.
Here we are. You don't have to do anything else, do you? You don't have to misunderstand anything. The Federal Reserve is doing what they're supposed to do. Make sure there's a robust economy. Does that include you, though? You have to put yourself in position so you are part of that robust economy. We've talked about derivatives here. I have. Rarely does anybody talk about it because you have to figure out a way to get your subscription base. Just think about this. 25 years ago, you used to be able to buy CDs or DVDs on disc for programs such as the Microsoft Word Suite or Photoshop. And then it would expire the license. So what did these corporations do? They said, man, why are we messing with this? Because people can actually share it. And it's an actual physical item. So why don't we just make it subscription based where they just pay a monthly fee? That way they're locked in because once they use the item, the odds of them leaving is slim as long as we keep producing. But then if we can add millions of people and they pay $10 a month, now all of a sudden we have the golden ticket, the derivative. Because again, I'll give you a derivative and we'll talk about it briefly. What do I mean by this? This is basically when you are able to provide a service or product and a person signs a contract, and I don't care if it's $10 a month. That contract is worth $120 a year. A derivative is I get to take that contract. We have millions of people at $120. That's millions of dollars annually, but we'll just keep it simple. We have 1 million people times $100. 12 million. I get to take that piece of paper to a finance company or to Wall Street, and I get to say, hey, how much will you give me for this $12 million worth of paper I have, even though I haven't collected the 12 million? Somebody will say, we will give you 4 million. We will give you 3 million. Now you've collected money up front because you've done the front of the work. Now you can always borrow against your paper. Not unless you sold it, but let's say you didn't sell it. Now you're using it to get a loan. That's another derivative. That means off the books, so to speak, we have another person that paid me cash up front while they're taking the risk to collect more later. The hidden debt obligations within America. So again, you have to figure out as an American citizen, are you going to continue to pay other people's tax bills, or are you going to sit there and say, hey, enough? Somebody's going to have to figure out how to pay this deficit, because otherwise in 3 years, 80% to 85% of the United States population will be living paycheck to paycheck. You can't stop it, unfortunately. So the only thing you can do is listen to Chairman Powell. Listen to what he's saying. He called me up. He said, Eric, now's the time. Get all the OCs together, ordinary citizens together. Tell them they better be buying some stocks. Tell them they better be buying some real estate, because I'm making it affordable for them, because this next bull run, it's over. Because if you can't afford a $500,000 or $600,000 house now, you damn sure won't be able to do a $900,000 to $1 million house later. The jobs possibly won't be there. The jobs that give you livable wages in order to buy a $900, $1 million house. Are you going to be making over $250,000, $300,000 annually as a household? On average, $150,000 per person for two people. That's 300 G's. Well, you better start getting on it, because otherwise you will not be saved. Now, let's get into this other ramifications. Let's talk about the other thing, the real thing. We're talking about stocks. I'm a big fan of dividend stocks at this moment in time, and have always been. I'm a big fan of real estate investment trust stocks, or companies that buy apartments, companies that's going to give you that real estate investment trust percentage of dividends outpour. No, I'm not talking about the Fundrise. I'm not talking about the Cardone funds. I'm not talking about that type of funds where somebody says, hey, I'm going to give you $200,000, $300,000 and, oh, we're going to give you 5% or 6% return on your money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the boys that say AGNC, real estate investment trust companies. Companies that buy apartment buildings, maybe even buy homes, but nonetheless, they're giving out 90%, 85 to 90% of the profits go to the dividend holders. That's what we're talking about. So ARR, ORC. I should have warned you, get your pen, pad, and papers ready, right? Okay. So NLY. And if I didn't say it, ARR, ORC, NLY, AGNC. All over 12% right now that you could get return on your investment while you're sleeping. What are you waiting for? Go down below and get the Robinhood and Webull app if you do not have a brokerage account. And also get these stocks ASAP. Why do I say ASAP? These companies are a business. You don't think that when the rate gets low enough that they're not going to refinance their debt that they've bought these assets for? Of course, they're going to lower their rate. That means more profit for them, which is fine. But that means all the money I put in today earning 13, 14, 15% keeps earning 13, 14, 15% because now instead of me taking the money out, I'm just going to have them rebuy the shares, reinvesting. Every time they give a payout, it automatically reinvests for the existing share price. So if the share price increases, you guys know what that means. That means lower yield. So if I can buy a stock for $10 per share, I've mentioned this on live streams, and I get $1.50 a year, that's 15%. If the stock price goes down to $9 and I still get $1.50, that means I've increased my profit more than 15%. Maybe 17 or 18. I don't know the mathematic. I would need a calculator. But if the share goes from $10 to $12, now all of a sudden, instead of that 15% yield, it's reduced to about 12. That's why you buy in now, because in theory, the stock price for real estate investment trust should rise. Now, hopefully that gets you started on the right track. Dividend investing, if you want to continue along these lines on the live streams, we always get busted up whenever we start going over YMAXETFs.com. Why YMAXETFs.com? Option strategy is what they're doing. Options trading strategy. Go there and go look and see, do you like 25%, 35%, 45%, 55% annual return on what you put in? Well, higher rewards, higher the risk. Therefore, you do need to go study. YMAXETFs.com. I'm not going to say what the stock symbols are. You can go look for yourself, but your job is to go see if this meets your investing criteria, if you want to go high risk. But there is plenty of opportunity, and the other part of the opportunity, you need to understand a few other things. When they do this interest rate decrease, that means that triggers a lot of different things. Refinance, selling of home, which now means a buyer of a home has to come, as Jerome Powell has mentioned. These are all the things that it triggers, along with borrowing. You can borrow more, that means you can buy more. Do a hedge. Some people would say, well, if I can get an interest rate of 3% and then I get to make 5 or 7 or 8% return, that's a 4% or 3% arbitrage. So now it's perfect. I can pay for what I want and I still make a little profit that goes in my pocket. And the thing that I'm buying is an asset. What is an asset? An asset here in the SSN Nation is something that pays you. You buy it, you go to sleep, you wake up next month, 2 months, half a year, and there's money in your bank account. Therefore, an asset is not when you buy it, you get nothing in return other than hopes and prayers. That's why a house here in the SSN Nation is not an asset. You need passive income paying for where you live. So therefore, get your passive income in first. Buy a business that is actually making money so you know you're going to get a return on your investment. A startup, high risk. High reward, but high risk. So you have to think in these terms from now on, because any money we squander away is going towards liabilities. Because you want to feel good, you want to smell good, you want to look good. Your ego might have to be checked at the door, because 70 to 75% of the American population during the course of a month is living paycheck to paycheck. You can Google it. And actually, you'll find out the number is at 78%. So again, I'll reiterate what the 78% is. So everybody acknowledges 70% of the population lives paycheck to paycheck during the month. But what they don't talk about is the other number. 78% of the population during the course of 4 weeks before their next paycheck comes, it's already paid. That's scary. And so you think the upper middle class won't get wiped out after this next boom on housing prices without wage increases of about 25%? Nobody's getting a 25% wage increase over the next 3 years or 2 years. So hopefully you guys understand where we're going here. And I know everybody who's familiar with the SSN Nation, we're going for a nice little ride because they've been buying assets. They've been buying properties that they're going to rent out on Airbnb. They have a plan. They're going to start or buy into a business or even buy into a startup. But nonetheless, you have to concentrate on using your bullets, your duffel bag of cash for an asset class that you're going to get a return on your money. Let me know what you guys think about the Federal Reserve reducing the interest rate 0.5. Don't fall into the trap. There's already been this trap. I don't understand why people are sitting here in the financial industries talking about, oh, if they reduce the interest rate 0.5, that means X. What difference does it make what it means? It means that allows more people to buy because they can borrow. Who cares what it means? Because that's not the only amount. Who cares they didn't do 0.25? Okay, even if they would have done 0.25, so what? They would have done 0.25 3 months from now too, to make it 0.5. They're also going to do another 0.25 or 0.5 next 6 months because they're going to reduce the interest rate, their federal funds rate, at least by 2 to 2.5%. At least over the next 2 years. So why are people giving this crap garbage comments about, oh, well, 0.5 is too much. That's going to drag down the economy. Really? Really? Are you serious right now? Why would it matter if they did 1 percentage point? Because that's where they're going to be for sure in the next 12 months. It could even be 1.25 in the next 12 months. So you telling me after they do the rate reductions in the next 3 to 6 months that that's bad? because they went beyond what you think they should have. All I see is rich guys getting richer because they can borrow more at a lower interest rate. And the rich guys have the money or the borrowing power at a lower interest rate, which means they can buy more. If a guy has $10 million worth of assets, and I could walk into the bank and I say, hey, can I get a $1 million loan? And then they turn around and said, yes, Eric, interest only for 10 years at 3%. Your collateral is $5 million of your building or whatever. I win. You can't compete with me. I have interest only. I only have to pay the principal. I only have to pay like $30,000 a year. After borrowing $1 million for the next 10 years, you can't compete. I'm going to go buy $1 million worth of assets. Apartment buildings, duplexes, fourplexes, maybe buy into a business, which now I get more money. And all I owe is $30,000 annually. Whereas if you go and borrow $1 million, you will not qualify. Because that's what you're going to do for your home ownership. That's what you're going to do. You're going to sit there and pay $35,000 every year at the same interest plus principal. So is your note going to be $4,500? $5,000? Add on interest, insurance and property taxes? That's a whole different ball game. Now you're going to be paying $6,000, $7,000 per month. Meanwhile, these guys get to roll along. This is why I have disdain. Because ordinary citizens, you're out here sleepwalking. This is why I started the channel, Stop Struggling Now, 5 years ago. Because I was trying to help people understand the different nuances on how the rich get to stay ahead while you're actually voting for them and you're actually perpetuating the endless cycle where the middle class, upper middle class, lower classes are going to be wiped out. Because you are sitting there going, I want my tax bill to be reduced. But instead of you saying, I want my tax bill to be reduced, but hold on, what are you doing for the guys that make tens of millions of dollars? And then when you find out they're cutting their taxes more than they're cutting yours, and then the next question should be, who's going to pay their taxes that they're not paying? You don't realize it's you. This is why you have to get passive income in the house starting now. You have 2.5 years, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of 3 years, the upper middle class is going to be wiped out. Those of you making $200,000, $150,000, over $100,000 are going to be wiped out. And right now, people making six figures are living paycheck to paycheck, in case people do not understand what's going on. So with all that said on this little rant, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. And I know it's hard out here. This is why we've been talking about for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. No credit check, no qualifying, no barriers to entry to get pre-construction real estate. Where? Dominican Republic. Is it too late? I don't know. But all I do know is all the people that bought in 2020, 2019, 2018, 2021, 2022, they're sitting in a better position because their properties are going up. In fact, a lot of their properties have went up at least 60 to 100% in value. That equity, they're going to be able to tap into eventually, even though the island works a little bit different. But that just means they can sell it and make maybe 100,000 to 200 or 300,000, or refi it, which is not a thing yet, but they are in position. And whenever the United States reduces their interest rates, guess what? The rest of the world does also. And with all that said, keep your head up, keep moving, and I'm out.